All right. You guys are filtering in. From what I understand, you guys do have some questions for me for Hugo the BloodLess, which is totally fine. I'll answer maybe like 30-ish questions, and then I think I'm good. As long as there's no spoiler questions or anything like that, you guys can ask for like inspiration and like character development and some things that may happen, but I will not give like details that will give away the actual story, because that will just ruin it. I'll give you guys a few minutes so you can filter in, my brothers and ladies. Okay. All right, we can start with some questions, but please go one at a time because I don't want to be overwhelmed. Can you guys hear me okay? Because I have like my face cam like hooked up to my laptop. So I was just wondering. Okay, cool. This is from Mary Sill. Are you having a difficult time writing the rest of the book because of the length and amount of story material? Yes and no. It's more so the length of the novel because it's so damn long that it does get exhausting. And it does get tiring to, try to complete this and try to write it. Because there's a lot of story material left to write and left to tell. So I would say, yeah. It's not difficult in the sense that it's like it's boring and I'm just like so tired of writing this book. I love writing this. I'm so happy with Hugo the BloodLess as an entire whole. But because of the length and that it's many thousands of pages and it's probably going to end up being close to like 11,000 pages at the end of it. Yeah, I mean, it's just daunting. I want to create something beautiful. I want to create something meaningful. I want to write a good story in a fantasy world. And so I just want to take my time with it. I don't want to rush it. I don't want to half-ass the project. From Toehawk, question 2. Are you happy with how you wrote Act 1? Yes. At the beginning when I wrote Hugo the BloodLess, I kind of had like a different sight for how I wanted the story to go at the beginning. I wouldn't change anything about Act 1 at all. I'm completely happy with how it's written. I feel like I depicted his childhood very well and his life in the Tropea as an Emira. I feel like I depicted Tarbine well, even though it's longer now than it was before. And I feel like I depicted his relationship with his parents or with Abinthai really good. From what I'm aware, most fantasy books kind of, when there's parents involved, they kill off the parents pretty quickly, like within the first few chapters. But I wanted to give them like at least like 15 to 17, good, decent long chapters to be active in the story instead of just kind of vanishing after like 3, because that's not as impactful to the character and to the reader. My girlfriend does help me with stuff like that, like adding extra pieces of dialogue. So I will like go back and edit, maybe add a few extra pieces of dialogue in the frame story, maybe, add a few descriptions of things. But ultimately, yes, I am pretty happy with it. From Chia Cat, would you change anything from the beginning of the story? No. I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out. Originally, when I was thinking of Hugo the BloodLess a couple years ago, I was taking a different approach. It's gonna blow your guys' mind a little bit, but originally in the story, there was not really a frame story, like set in present day, like at the Waystone Inn. There was not a Bast. There wasn't originally going to be an Ori. His parents were actually going to die earlier on. And I was going to kind of have him go into the university all like just like super ready and pompous and like, yeah, I'm smart and I can get in here. And then they just kind of let him in. And I was just kind of thinking about that. I'm just kind of like, that's lazy, and that's like, it's not good storytelling. And so I just decided, you know, as the years went by, as I was writing other books and thinking about this, I have to expand it more. I have to make it more interesting. I have to have tension, and I have to have beauty, and I have to have adventure. And so, yeah. But as of right now, no, I would not like expand it. It's from Thierry. Hi, Thierry. How long have you been thinking of Hugo? For a couple years. I had the world of TearMint and his character and just generally the fantasy story of it in my head for years and years. I was even thinking about it back when I was a senior in high school, but I just didn't have like the talent yet or like the means to execute it as I'm executing it now and how I'm writing it. Because I was focusing on school and I wanted to write other things as well, but it was in the back of my mind, yeah. And I was kind of forming the world and the races and the magic. Do you hear the music and songs in your book when you write them? Sometimes, like Tinker Tanner, and Slow Leaf and the Sword Tree and stuff. Yeah, I sometimes do. I kind of imagine it as like flutes or fifes or pipes, you know, violins. A lot of like medieval kind of classical type music, lute plucking. How did you come up with Hugo's character? I think I've answered this kind of question before, but I just wanted a character simply as a genius. He's kind of a mix between Leonardo da Vinci, myself, and like other kind of random amalgamations of people. I just wanted him to be very witty and charming and smart and adventurous and brave, but also like logical and rational. Even though he makes mistakes early on in the book, as a young man does, which is natural as you're growing up. But I just wanted him to be like one of the coolest people like in the world. He's wise and he knows things, and you know, yeah, I just kind of came up with him, really. How did you come up with the archives, and why does Hugo thirst for it so much? Magical library. Who doesn't like a magical library with 10,000 books and endless knowledge? I just wanted a cool place like that. And I mean, it's pretty prevalent in the book on why Hugo wants it so much. I mean, it's kind of his whole purpose. Why did you want to add a prelude from the perspective of Bast? I wanted to expand his character. Simply put, I wanted to kind of write more because I feel like in the story, it's Hugo's story and it's mainly from his perspective. Even though the frame is written in third person, but the majority of it is from Hugo's perspective because it's his book. So, but I thought, you know, it would be kind of cool if I said it a day before the events of Act 1 takes place and kind of just you get to see Bast going through what he does when he's not at the Waystone under Hugo's care. So, yeah. I've also, like, expanded it completely. So, yeah. I still need to read that to my girlfriend. Is there any next-gen Sigiltree magic that will appear in the book that we haven't seen? Yes. There is advanced runic magic and more Sigiltree that will appear later on in Act 2 with Hugo and Rivelin that they create and kind of like study. So yeah, has there been any ideas your girlfriend has brought up that you are including? Yes, my girlfriend is a very lovely person. I'm assuming my girlfriend's gonna be watching this video, so hi babe, I love you. Yes, she comes up with a lot of really good ideas. She's come up with some interesting ideas for the Shandrin. She's come up with some new magic and language stuff, new character development, just kind of, and also just new story arcs that I just haven't even thought of, or I probably wouldn't have even thought of till way later on. And so she's a really good counterpoint for me, because she helps me just add a little bit more extra, just a little bit more that would add a tiny bit more depth to the story. And she has great ideas. I really appreciate the help and support that she gives me, because she's very invested in this book. And I say this lightly. She's very invested, unbelievably invested, because it's just, she's explained to me that it's a different type of fantasy story she's never heard of before, and it just means a lot to her, and she's she likes the characters and likes the world and stuff. And so, but yeah, there are ideas that I am including in the book that she has given me. How much time passes in Act 3? Less than 100 years and more than 5 years. Will you write other books set in your world of TearMint? Probably not. I don't know. I kind of want to just keep it as this one book self-contained. Will we see more Fae? Yes, we will see more Fae. Is there something Hugo invents that advances the university? He invents many things that advances the university. How do you define your prose? How do I define my prose? Like my lyrical prose? I don't know. I kind of just write what I feel like writing, honestly. And like, if I write something and I like the sound of a sentence, I keep it in, or if I don't, I reword it or take it out. So, I mean, like, I've developed my own writing style over the years. Because back when I was just starting to write, when I was a teenager, my writing was garbage and it was not great. And then I took a bunch of creative writing classes and read a bunch of different books on how to write good books. And I just kind of started developing my own kind of style. Were there any characters you had a hard time creating and writing? I had a hard time kind of creating Tempe at first. Just because that he had a language barrier of Otteran. And so it was kind of difficult trying to figure out how to depict that. Is there a secret you can give us of the ending? No. Are you interested about writing TearMint 500 years in the past before Hugo? That's interesting. That's an interesting theory. I've thought about it, of writing other books set in my world of TearMint with other characters and having other stories. But I as I've said before, and it was kind of similar to the other question, I kind of want to keep it the same. In Modeg, what is the 28-part court dance? Hugo does participate in it. The 28-part court dance is a very complex court dance that is only performed in Modeg. So it's kind of like a lot of swishes and jigging, like hands on your hips and kicking your feet out. It's also like spinning around, dancing on your hands with your legs in the air. It's pretty wild. Does Hugo meet the Poet King? He does. Are you ready to finish your book? Yes. I'm ready to finish it so I can put it out in the world and just have it finished. But I don't want to half-ass it. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to my writing. I want to make it perfect. I want to tell a beautiful story. And so I don't want to rush. But yes, I am ready to finish it. Is Ori a magical being? Assuming the Cherrywood Tree short story is connected to TearMint, will Hugo go to that same tree? No. What's your favorite new part in the book that you've written already? Other than the rest of the university stuff, I would probably say when he goes back to Ventus and just spending time with his friends in the mayor. That was pretty fun to write. And kind of going around the city. And then also like Junipai. It's a pretty cool section in the book. I think you guys are gonna like it. Are you nervous about releasing Hugo the BloodLess? Yes, that's a double question. Yes and no. No, because I'm ready for it to go out. I'm ready for it to go out to the world and get received. I'm ready for other people to read it and just to be done with it. Like, I've worked on it for a while now. It's been almost 2 years that I've worked on this book, and I'm not done writing it yet. And so it's a big project for me, and it's something that I'm extremely proud of creating and building up into this great world. And it's just, I'm nervous because I understand some of the fandom behind it. I understand the hype that it's getting. And I understand that it's a big thing. And that there's a lot of people that want it. And so I'm nervous. I'm very well aware that it's going to explode once it comes out. Maybe not right away, but soon. And so that does make me nervous because I don't know how to handle that. I'm being honest. I don't know how. I've never been a famous person. Or like starting to become one. And so I don't know how that's like. So it's going to be different. Will we see more of the Chandran? Yeah, yes. If Hugo the BloodLess was made into a movie, who would you want to act as Hugo himself? To be honest, a movie would be cool, but it would cost a buttload of money to make, and honestly, I don't know if I want it to be made into a movie or a TV show. I think I'm kind of happy with it just being a book. I feel like if it was made into a movie with actors and cinematography and its own soundtrack, I feel like it would ruin my image of it. Like, it wouldn't be depicted as I want the world to be depicted in my head. So, I don't think I want it to be made into a movie. Are any of the fables connected to the main frame, like Jack in the Moon or the boy with the golden screw in his belly button? Yes, everything is connected. How much of Act 2 takes place at the university? 50%. Will Scarpe play a role in the story? You mentioned that Chronicler was meeting Scarpe and Treya. I am going to decline to answer that. Is there a category of magic we haven't been introduced to yet? Oh yes, there is some magics coming. Does Hugo attend many funerals? Yes he does. Without giving too much away, a lot of people do die in the book later on. There's a lot of death. So yeah, I mean, Hugo does attend many funerals in Noir. Obviously, like, Ambrose kind of, is like an evil mastermind. And then it's kind of like a big pit where all his friends are dead. And then Ambrose comes up behind Hugo and stabs him in the back with a dagger. And then Hugo falls in. That's the end of the story. How would you come up with the names for your world? That's a good question. I just kind of came up with... I've been asked, like, how I come up with character names and how I come up with just names for things in general, if it's kind of fantastical and magical. I kind of just make up what sounds cool. Like, if I'm being for real. I just make up what sounds like it would be an interesting name for a city or a town or a place. Like Ventus and Modeg and the Cynthia Sea and Junipai and the Fey Realm and the Eld. I mean, come on, it sounds fucking cool. And so it sounds enchanting. So I just kind of thought of it. What real world song would Hugo play at Anchors? I have a hurdy-gurdy sitting here right now, and I would love to pay homage to him by playing a song for you. Oh, thank you. That's so nice. Oh, what real world song? Oh my god. But like with medieval instruments? Dude, I don't know. That's a hard question. Hard as stone and iron. I know this is going to be cringe, but this was like my go-to song as a teenager was Centuries from Fall Out Boy. It's just so hype and energetic. And it's about battle. I'd like to see him play Centuries by Fall Out Boy on the lute. I've been racking my brain over this sentence. Sleep met him like a lover in an empty bed. I am Spanish, and I did not understand what does it mean in English. That's hard to explain in a meaningful way. I'm not going to answer that completely because it's more of like a metaphor for sleep met him beautifully in an empty bed and which he had a lover next to him. That's kind of what it means. Have you ever thought about having, when the book is published, having it translated to other languages? I have, but I don't have the skill to do that. I would need to have someone do that for me. Is the name of silence very powerful? And does it exist? Yes, it is very powerful. How much traveling does Hugo do in TearMint once he leaves university? He does a lot of traveling. Without giving too much away, he goes to more than 4 places. Do we get to see more of Elodin, Rivlin, and the Masters? Yes, you do. It's expanded a lot more. There is a quote, I've rescued Tinkers from sleeping borrowed drogs. Will Hugo encounter a borrowed drog, and is there more creatures in Act 3? Yes, there is more creatures, a ton more creatures in Act 3. I wanted for the first 2 acts to kind of, albeit the Fey Realm and Ventus, I wanted to keep that more grounded in reality. and kind of more historically, because I wanted to kind of like explode more on Act 3, because Act 3 is pretty magical and it gets weird. Some parts get very weird and very surreal and dreamlike. So I kind of wanted to save all that for the big epic quest of the character, where he meets more creatures and he learns more different magics that are unheard of, and he meets all these, different races and these beings. And so, how much darker is the rest of the book after Act 2? It's pretty dark. It gets technically it's an adult fantasy, even though the beginning of the book is a little bit more whimsical and like magical and childlike, because the character is a child at that time. But as the character Hugo grows up and becomes a full-grown man, yes, it is a lot more darker. There's a lot more adult things that happen, a lot more kind of terse and intense things are discussed. There's a lot more violence. There's a lot more gore, abuse. There's a lot more swearing. So, yeah, I would say it's a lot darker than the rest of the book. It's pretty damn dark. If there was a place in the universe you wish could be built in real life and created, what would it be? I've thought about it being the archives of the Waystone Inn, but honestly, the artificery. Like all those beautiful, like colorly glass bulbs hanging from the ceiling, and there's forges and anvils and work tables everywhere, and it's like the tinkering sounds and metal on metal. That would be so cool. I'll answer like 2 or 3 more questions, and then I gotta get going, guys. I'm sorry this was a short Q&A, but this is from Elliot. Hi, Elliot. I would love the artificery. It's one of my favorite places. It's so magical. My mom also really likes your book as well, and she finds it very magical. We're both definitely gonna buy a coffee. Thank you. That's really kind of you, dude. What is in the thrice locked chest? Now that's a spoiler question. Will we get to see more of Simon and Fella's relationship and other minor characters like Mola and Devi, Dioch, Stanchion, and Count Threpe? Yes, I do expand more in the rest of Act 2 on their characters and backstories, and you just get to spend more time with them. What fantasy genre do you consider Hugo the BloodLess to be under? Other than it being just like fantasy genre, because I know there's a lot of subgenres. There's like dark fantasy, there's vampiric fantasy, there's low fantasy, there's steampunk. I would consider it to be medieval high fantasy, kind of medieval high epic fantasy. Do any of the masters die? I pass on that question, I'm sorry. Do we get to have a conclusion of what happens to Dinah? Yes, but it's not a good one. Alright, this is the last question I'm going to answer. There are a lot of lies that Hugo tells about himself, which I find hilarious. But of some of those myths, are some of them true and will happen in the book? For example, will Hugo go to the singing tree? Will he meet an angel? Etc. A lot of what he actually tells is true, and it is going to occur in the story. He just exaggerates to promote his reputation. That's what he does. That's one of the things that he likes to do. I will answer this. Yes, the singing tree he does go to, and it does exist. Will he meet an angel? I will refuse to answer that. Okay, this is the final question that I gotta get going, guys. Thank you so much. Do we get to see how Hugo gets to Noir with Bast? And do we get to see the fateful meeting between the two characters? Yes, you do. You do get to see both him getting to the Waystone in Noir and how him and Bast eventually meet. I will not tell you how, though. Have you figured out a cover for the book yet? No, I have not. My girlfriend wants to make a cover for me. I will not disclose what it's going to look like, but she wants to draw a cover for me, and I think it's brilliant. All right, thank you guys so much for giving me a bunch of these questions. That was like 40 plus, so I enjoyed answering them. It was really fun. Very good questions. There was only really one spoiler or 2 questions, so I appreciate everyone's like mannerly attitude and not asking me a ton of intense spoiler questions. Thank you guys. I really enjoyed answering it. Thank you guys for coming down and taking the time to give me these things. I enjoyed answering all of them. Hope you guys have a good day or a good night wherever you guys are located. I'm gonna see you guys later.